welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Happy Tuesday. It's How to Tarot Tuesday, and what that is it is a weekly vlog post that I post here on my channel. And every week what I do is I go ahead and I choose one card from the 78 card tarot. We go ahead and the first 20 minutes of the reading talks about the symbolism in the card in question. And then after we've talked about the symbolism, we go ahead and let you, the viewer, choose from one of 3 tarot decks. I choose the tarot decks that I think best represent the card that we're talking about. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do a quick reading using your tarot deck of choice to describe how this card manifests in your life. This week we are talking about the Page of Wands, which is the first court card of the wand suit. And at any time, if you want to skip straight to your reading, all of the timestamps are listed in the description box below. And we'll go ahead and get started. So the Page of Wands is really an exciting card. As you can tell, I'm kind of lagging a little bit, and I always think every single time I've had a long day and, I do a How to Tarot, I just think this is an exciting card. I've had a long day and I'm a little wary, but anytime you look at the Page of Wands, you can't help but get excited, right? And what you see a young person. They look like they're younger than, like a young teenager, not quite a child, but not quite a teenager. And the person's wearing a hat with a feather in his cap. And he has on a tunic which has little salamanders all over it, which I think is great. And he has a cloak as if he's about to travel. He has on boots, and I love how the boots look like they have little flames coming out of them. And then he holds a staff in his hand, and he's looking at the staff as kind of adoringly, right? And, we did with the Ace of Wands, we described about how that staff is ideas. It's the spark of inspiration. It's the starting something new and the excitement of going into uncharted territory. In the background, you definitely see what looks like kind of a desert climate. You definitely get a feeling of very hot and kind of desert kind of feeling, which is very, very wands. It's very fire energy. And that's the first deck will always be the Rider-Waite-Smith, so we go through the descriptions with that card. But what I love about the Page of Wands is that it basically means being creative. The Wands suit is fire, which means inspiration. It means spiritual. It means physical action. And when you see someone who is a page, who's a novice, that means that there's something that you are new at this activity. Either that or this activity is new to you in some way. So a lot of times it means taking a novel approach to something. I always describe the Page of Wands as being that summer camp feeling. It's like when school is out and you don't have any of that, formal book learning. You have that, I always refer to it as being excited to get out of bed in the morning, right? If you've ever had that activity that just made you feel like, gosh, I want to hurry up. It's almost like going to sleep on Christmas night in order to wake up on Christmas morning, right? There's something really exciting that you're looking forward to, right? And that's the enthusiasm of the page. With the court cards, and this being the first of the court cards, it really does mean somebody who's new, who's kind of green at what they're doing, right? But a lot of times, it's interesting. My mom always refers to it in a very sweet way. She refers to it as being stupid like a child. And she doesn't mean stupid in a derogatory way. She means it in a very uninhibited way. Like, have you ever had those moments when you had a child say something that was just, that you've heard of the expression out of from the mouth of babes? You have a child who says something to you that you would just never think of in a million years. That's kind of what I think of when I think of a page, any page, but especially with the Page of Wands. Because what it is maybe you've had a problem that you've been overthinking, right? Maybe you have something that, a lot of times when, I think in life, sometimes we become a little too adult, Sometimes we get so stuck in our way of thinking. We think, oh, okay, you know, I can't do that because I have this bill or I have this responsibility. And the Page of Wands helps break you out of that mindset. It is like thinking like a child. It's like thinking outside of the box. It's not letting anything hold you in. And especially in the Wands suit, because Wands is action and it's spirit and it's passion and it's drive. And it really means it's the art, it's kind of meaning that it kind of heralds in a new expression, and it does it in a very innocent way. It's definitely talks about exploring like an art field. Sometimes that can mean, exploring something new. A lot of times the page can show up if you're starting a new hobby, but you don't know much about the hobby, so you're a novice. Um, a lot of times it can also mean going in a new direction, or just again finding a solution that you really seems kind of crazy but would really work. Right? It's funny how sometimes something will come to you or you'll read about something, and the other thing that I think of, and please don't shoot the messenger, but I really do think of this, is that have you ever heard of the expression keep it simple? Sometimes it's keep, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? And again, it's like being stupid like a child. A lot of times it just means that maybe you're overcomplicating things. Maybe you're overthinking things, right? So when the Page of Wands comes out, it kind of says, take the clamp off, take the filter off, take that stodgy adult, restriction off your way of thinking, because the solution is probably there. It's just, the other thing is, it's probably so simple that you're writing it off because you're thinking too much. You're not allowing yourself to have that freedom to really explore. And it is that unbridled enthusiasm that is a page. It's a lot of times pages also mean dare to be new at something, right? I think a lot of times as we get older, sometimes we kind of dig in and refuse to learn new things. And sometimes you have to admit, maybe you don't know how to do something. And it's okay to ask. It's okay to say, hey, I don't know how that works. Please tell me how that works. And that can manifest as the Page of Wands when you're learning to do something, especially a physical activity. A lot of times I love the fact that it's so enthusiastic. And actually the second deck really plays into this. This is the Slow Tarot by Lacey Bryant. I knew from the beginning that I was going to pick this card for the How to Tarot because I absolutely love it. You see what looks like a young person, and I love decks that depict the pages as young people because it's so apropos. But you see a young guy who looks like he's at a campfire, right? It looks like he's camping, right? He looks like a Boy Scout or something. And he kind of has that sash around his neck, right? And he looks like he's roasting like marshmallows or something. It does kind of look like he has a salamander climbing the stick though. So definitely, I don't think he's roasting the salamander by any means. But it's just exciting. Again, we talked about summer camp and having that thrill of learning something new, learning something physical. So it can be something like that. Sometimes when you're learning something practical that's in the physical world, but a lot of times it means being enthusiastic about it. It's just having, again, that excitement of doing something. It's really having a thrill, like a real jolt of enthusiasm. It usually means being the first to volunteer for something too. So a lot of times this can be like a hobby or something that you're eager to do. It definitely is something that gets your blood flowing or gets you excited. It's some kind of activity that maybe you're learning that you never learned before. Now, a lot of times it can mean being confident. it can almost mean that kind of blind confidence where you just really think that you can get through anything, and that's always a good thing. But of course, with it being a page, that kind of confidence really means that you are almost fearless and like in a childlike way. Like, there might be things out there to be feared, but you don't even bother to acknowledge them because they don't exist to you, right? They're outside your sphere of understanding when you're a page, right? And then the other thing is that, it's saying, yes, I can. It is almost kind of that blind optimism where, it's, if you've ever had situations where you do need that kind of faith, where you can just, say, okay, let me go full throttle. Let me not worry about it. It is kind of a David and Goliath kind of feeling where don't even worry about the competition. Don't even sum up the competition. Just know that you can, right? And that is almost a very not juvenile kind of way to see things, but it's a very innocent way to see things. It helps you move beyond doubts, and it helps you focus on success. And that's probably the most beautiful thing about the Page of Wands is that the third deck I went with was the Morgan Greer. And it kind of, and again, with the feather in your cap, if you've ever heard of the expression, put a feather in your cap, it is almost like, there's a lot of creative visualization in the Page of Wands. It's like saying, okay, I know I can do this. I don't need to doubt myself. I don't even need to think about the opposition. I don't need to worry about the opposition. I'm just going to do, right? Let me just do. And that's kind of the beauty of the page, is that they don't even comprehend, that they could fail. And that's where they really succeed, is because they don't let themselves, instead of looking at the competition and being intimidating. It is a little bit, and of course, wands are a little bit guilty of this, a little bit of an arrogance to them. And you don't even worry about the competition. You don't even bother summing up the competition. You just say, oh, I'm going to do my best, right? And that's one of the really positive things about the upright Page of Rods and Page of Wands, is that you just go. You just do. You just throw it at the wall and see if it sticks, right? And you don't worry about the competition. You do your thing. Now, the other thing is that it is about having an adventure or taking a risk. So, a lot of times, if you see it come up in a read, sometimes it can mean that maybe someone propositions you with something that seems a little, kind of uninhibited. I remember one time, my sister and I decided to just drive to Key West on a whim. We just picked up and said, okay, the kids are not grown, they're not through college, but we have a little bit of money, we have our health, let's do this now. And that's kind of like a Page of Wands kind of attitude. It's kind of like, okay, well, I don't know where we're sleeping tonight, but let's do it, right? And it is kind of that excitement. It's being really, taking assertive action, and it is kind of being a little bit of the leader too. I do almost think of if you ever think of the movie Stand By Me, you know how you have a pack of friends who are kids that are in their, in between years. They're not children, but they're not teenagers. And you kind of have a leader of the pack, right? That would definitely be the Page of Wands. If you have children, or if, honestly, it could be in your friend group. It's just always that person who always says, hey, let's just pack a few sandwiches in a bag and let's go crossing the train tracks, or let's jump on the train and see how far it takes us, right? It is kind of like that adventure that you have, and you don't think about the destination, you don't think about where you're going, you just say, okay, I need a thrill, let's do this, right? So in that way, it is kind of being daring, and it's kind of I also see it as kind of overcoming a fear as well. A lot of times you see how this person is kind of looking at that rod and just kind of like, with his head up high, he's kind of like, yeah, let's go ahead and let's do this, right? So maybe it is getting on the roller coaster for the first time. Maybe it is, doing something kind of brash and immature. But a lot of times it does mean that you have a chance to do something kind of exciting and you don't want to miss it, right? You don't want to miss it. So, and while the upright talks a lot about your individuality and you kind of being a free spirit, when we go ahead and look at the wands, the page of wands in reverse, it definitely, the first thing that comes to mind is someone who's a little bit brash, right? Someone who's reckless. And it could be a friend if it manifests as a person. It can be that person who always gets you into trouble, right? I remember my dad was always a little apprehensive of my best friend. He'd always kind of get that look like, oh my God, they're walking out the front door. Are they coming home tonight? What trouble are they going to get into, right? So a lot of times it can be that kind of energy, just kind of like, seeing that restlessness, that firecracker, it is that firecracker that needs to go off and there's going to be casualties, right? So in that vein, it is a lot about, the Page of Wands in reverse is about like doing something impulsive and kind of stupid, doing something that you're going to later regret. A lot of times that, while it normally is a very positive and energetic and outgoing kind of energy, and usually a very positive energy, a lot of times it can be someone who craves attention. Um, Definitely, if you see the page in reverse, it could be that person, or it could be that child. In psychology, again, a lot of times pages do mean children. If you have children, but who are old enough to really display their personality, um, and their personality, a lot of times the page in reverse can kind of mean that rebellious, that kind of out of control child. There's a saying in psychology that talks about how when you want attention, you can get it either the good way or you can get it the bad way. And again, getting it the good way is getting good grades and saying, "Hey, mom, look at my report card. I did so good," and you get praise. And the bad way is, okay, let me break the coffee table and see how you react, right? Or let me, steal money or do something, really out of character, or not even out of character, but just, rambunctious. So a lot of times when you see the page in reverse, it can be that. It can just be the person who has too much energy, that person again that you're scared of, okay, oh gosh, they're going to get into trouble. um, and a lot of times it can be a repression of energy, like if you're not expressing yourself, because the page upright is so positive. Sometimes the page reverse can be someone who doesn't see the positive in life and therefore they act out. A lot of times it can be a little bit of a prima donna in a very immature way, like somebody who has to be the center of attention. In smaller groups or in high school, it can mean cliques. It can be the leader of the pack. It can mean, what's that head character in Mean Girls? I forget her name, but just the leader of the group who must be, who must always be the head in charge. A lot of times it can be a busybody or somebody who's just kind of up in everybody's business in kind of a physical way. A lot of times it can mean someone who's just very unreliable, someone who, they take a lot of, irresponsible action. But a lot of times it can also be someone who's a little bit of a braggart, like someone who has to show that they have the best rod and, and things like that. The other thing is that, again, with the page kind of, and again, the wand is a little bit of a phallic symbol. With it being a page and being somebody who's younger, if you do see the page in reverse, sometimes it can be someone who's confused about their sexuality. In very real terms, it can be a male child who might feel more feminine. It can be someone who's transgender or someone who's just coming out of the closet. So, but a lot of times it can be someone who's a little bit scatterbrained. And in that sense, it can be someone who wants to take action but can't. Either that, or it can be someone who's a little bit of a shrinking violet. A lot of times, the page in reverse can be someone who is of a naturally outgoing temperament, but is afraid to express that because maybe they're in a home that's very controlled, or in that sense also in a very real world it can be someone who's a little bit abused, like someone who's afraid to express their natural enthusiasm because they're afraid of losing or not being accepted. But a lot of times it upright or reverse, the page is a lot of energy. It means a lot of positivity. It's that spark of learning something new, and it is that kind of lust for life that all of us really need. And I think we really need it right now, right? We need some excitement. But so I'm going to go ahead and let you choose your deck. The first deck is always the Rider-Waite Smith. And with it, we have a sunstone, which is a really beautiful kind of brownish stone. The second deck is the Slow Tarot by Lacey Bryant. And that's our camper, which is really awesome. And with it, you have a bloodstone, which is kind of a beautiful greenish brown stone. I know the lighting doesn't do it justice. The last deck is my tried and true. This is actually the deck I formally learned tarot on. It's the Greer Tarot. And with it, this stone just arrived today. It's a clear quartz, and I actually got it as a gift in addition to a shell that I bought. So it's really beautiful. So I think it pairs well. I'll go ahead and do a freeze frame so you can decide if you like the artwork, if you like the number or the timestamp, maybe you like the stone. But just choose from your gut intuition, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move our decks up so we have space. So let's go ahead and see, how does the Page of Wands manifest in your life? Deck number 1, Rider-Waite Smith. Okay, so how does the Page of Wands? Ooh. Oh, wow, they're just popping out for us today. And future. All right, guys, this is really clear cut. I really like it. We're seeing a lot of swords too, which doesn't surprise me because if it's clear cut, it's swords, right? But we do have wands. It's all wands and swords. There's no cups or pentacles here. So definitely in the past, wow, guys, I'm really getting a feeling your Page of Wands, and again, it's that kind of impulsive energy. It's a real exciting energy. In the past, there you got the Queen of Swords, and the Queen of Swords is a little bit of a verbal person. She's very much a verbal person. She's a nurturing character. She gets kind of a bad rap because she does talk about boundaries. She talks about verbal boundaries. So I think in the past, I really just think I think you did something that was kind of outside of the box. I think you stepped out the zone, right? I think you really kind of pushed your boundary, and you did it kind of in a not even an innocent way, but a little bit of an impulsive way. I think you really just kind of looked at that stick, and you see how he's focusing on that wand, right? He's not looking at anything else. I think you took some kind of action in the past that really stood your ground. I am getting a lot of boundaries from this. I think you really kind of drew a line in the sand, but I think you did it kind of in an impulsive way. I think it probably came across as a little bit juvenile, and I don't mean that in a mean way, but I do think that you did something that was just really probably not even outside of your character, but I'm getting kind of like your base, like it was almost like the real unfiltered you, right? You said something or you drew a boundary. You might have done it in a little bit of a blunt way because the Page of Wands can be blunt. I do get a lot of Sagittarius vibe, which they always joke, Sagittarians have a little bit of the foot and mouth disease. Not in a bad way, but what you do is you tell the honest to Zeus truth, and you don't always sugarcoat it, which can be a little bit of a tough pill to swallow, right? You can, because you got two fives here, you can kind of stir up a hornet's nest when you come across, like, well, boom, you did this, da 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 da, come at me, bro, right? And so I think you might have done that. Now, the fact that it's the page upright, I think you were justified. I don't think that anything that you said or did, or I don't think the boundary that you drew was not warranted. I do think it was warranted because it is a queen, and a queen is, she's a mature feminine. She's not a child. I do kind of get this feeling like you did. You just kind of you said what was on your mind, right? You said what was on your mind, and you kind of said, look, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. But you almost kind of blurted it out, right? And then you drew the line. Now, what it is that's the past, and so what it's doing is it's causing a present kind of conflict, right? I think it might have caused a situation where there was win-lose, right? And honestly, the thing about the Five of Swords is that it's never a pretty card. It's not really a fair card. You have one person who wins and you have two other people who lose, right? So it's a win-lose situation. And I think that maybe you did say something that was kind of to the point. It doesn't, one thing that I am getting from these two cards is what you said was truthful. What you said was truthful. There was nothing incorrect about what came out, right? But the problem is that it may have been a little bit insensitive, and not in a bad way, but you felt like you needed to put up your boundaries, right? The other thing that I'm kind of seeing is that in the past I'm seeing boundaries next to someone who looks a little bit like they're the Five of Swords is someone who's very, very cunning, right? They're used to winning, and they don't mind hitting below the belt in order to win. But I don't think, the other thing that I'm getting is that I don't think that you're a hit below the belt kind of person, right? I think I think the cool thing about this combination is that you look at that queen and she's kind of looking at the guy like, yeah, you want to bring that game, you bring it. Put it right here. Put it right here at my feet. Go ahead, I dare you. And I think what it is that you're so used to, you're used to being fair. It is, but one thing I am getting across this board is that it is a little bit of a cold energy. But the problem is that, again, this is present energy. I think that you are presently in some kind of situation of conflict, but I think you're holding your ground. You're holding your ground. You're speaking your truth, right? You're speaking your truth, and you're doing it in a blunt but altruistic way. You're coming out and saying, look, you know, really, it's kind of like that, really, ABCD, uh-huh, you know, it's kind of, it kind of is, I'm getting a real strong, it is what it is, you know, you want to come at me crappy, you want me to call you out for being crappy, you keep coming at me. That's kind of the vibe. And again, you're trying to keep a real flexible. The other thing about the pages is that, they're not kings and queens. They don't have to appeal to anyone. They're kind of the glue that keep things together. But the other thing that I'm kind of getting is that, um, you this could also, in another interpretation, be a child who's being a little bit, it could be a child who's being a little bit gruff with you, and you're holding your ground. You're really standing and firm and saying, no, you're not gonna behave this way. But I do kind of get the feeling as if maybe you were presented with some mess. You called out the mess and you're kind of holding your boundaries, but you are still kind of in the thick of it. The other thing that I'm getting here is that the Page of Wands is very truthful, and the Five of Wands might bend the truth to try to get their way, right? They might formulate a story. They might try to make you look like you were the bad guy, and you're not having it. You're not having it. It's almost like you're presenting the truth, but you are doing it in a very innocent way. You're doing it in a very novice way. I think you're staying flexible, but you are holding your boundaries, right? I do think whatever was said, though, you did on impulse. You did it because I really feel like you said it because it was the right thing to do, but it did stir up a hornet's nest, right? But to be honest, I think, and when you look at it, I'm sorry for all the background noise. Um, when you really look at it, I really think it's a hornet's nest that was going to be stirred up anyway. You ever have those situations where you become the catalyst of something that was a long time coming and you're just like, fine, bring it, bring it on. Rather it be a swarming mess than, if the other thing is, again, with that, I am getting a sense of someone making you look like you're the bad guy. And, but, you know, this this stuff is what it is. It's just, this would be what it is, whether or not you sparked it off or whether or not someone else sparked it off is really the feeling I'm getting now. But where you are is in the middle. You're kind of in the thick of it, and you are, there's definitely a delicate balance where someone is trying to make you look like, it was your immaturity that caused all this drama. Now, moving forward, you got the Five of Wands, which is more wands, and you got the Ace of Swords. And that's such an awesome combination. So basically, what that's telling me is that your fight's not over yet, right? This has just begun. You're probably in the thick of it, and you're going to be dealing with this crap for a little bit longer. But the cool thing that I always noticed, and we had a tarot on the Five of Wands not too long ago, if you want to watch it in the playlist. But I said in the Five of Wands that it kind of looks like 5 pages, right? It looks like 5 pages. They all look like young people, right? He looks like he's just one more combatant. You're one more combatant in this little, in the fray, right? Um, but I think, again, just like I said, I don't think, I think your action or you speaking the truth might have, set off somebody. But you're keeping out of the mess. You're calling the mess for what it is, but you're keeping out of it. Um, and I do see kind of that with the page and then the five. I think there's a lot of conflict going on. But I do, the Ace of Swords is such an awesome card because, again, it's the sword of truth that the Queen is holding, right? It's almost like in the end, in the end, you're it's going, the Ace of Swords is breakthrough. It's like seeing things for the truth. It's coming out and saying, the truth will be revealed, right? And the truth being revealed is that it wasn't winners and losers, right? It wasn't one person being a bully and another person being the victim. It was everybody's fighting right now, right? Everybody's of equal strength. Everybody's in equal bad temper. Everybody's competing. And that's the truth of the matter. Now, to be honest, we're filming. You can come across this video at any time, but we are filming the video at a time when we're still in isolation. And I'll be honest because I'm Libra, and that is very Queen of Swords. Is that everybody's been cooped up for like 6+ weeks, and I just really, you see everybody kind of getting on everyone's nerves. It's happening, right? It's not funny. It's not funny, but I think everybody just kind of needs some space, right? Because I think everybody is kind of getting in that zone of like, can we please just, can we stop the petty fighting? Can we, not pick at each other for these stupid things? Can we, and it's been a long ride. The other thing I kind of see with this is that, maybe you are a mother and, you have children who are really starting to not get along. And again, everybody is being cooped up. But one thing I am seeing is that in the future, the truth of the situation will come forward. And it's that same sword that's the truth of the situation is the same sword that the Queen has been holding the whole time, right? So I do think you have a little while long to go. It is going to be more conflict and it's going to be more petty disagreements. But the truth of the situation will prevail. But we are probably you're going to be dealing with it for a little while longer. But I think it is also just trying to say, please keep your optimism. I know that's really hard to do. It's hard to do when people are snipping at each other and you feel like, God, when am I going to have a little bit of peace, right? Why does it have to be win-lose? Why does it have to be, conflict and no one getting along? But that sort of truth is coming. And the other thing that's real beautiful about the sort of truth is that it shows you a lot, right? I do think that these situations, as hard as they reveal a lot of truth, right? Maybe there are situations that are starting to get outdated. Maybe there's changes that need to occur. And that's the other thing that's with the five, is five means change. But keeping a good spirit, keeping a flexible spirit is definitely the Page of Wands energy, and that's a good energy to be in. Try to be excited about the future. Try not to let all of this, this squaring off with everyone else bring you down or make you feel blue. But all right, guys, so that's how the page is showing up in your life. That's really cool. I like that. So let's go ahead and move on. So deck number 2, the Slow Tarot by Lacey Bryant. Let's go ahead and see with the Bloodstone. How does the Page of Wands manifest in your life? And that is a really cute page. How does the Page of Wands manifest in your life? Okay, wow. Wands. Ooh. Very present. Okay, and for the record, as I was shuffling, I did see the Devil and I saw the Ten of Wands. So I do think that a little bit of the energy. Oh, okay. All right. Wow, you got the Page and the Page. You got the Page of Swords, Page of Wands. So guys, in the past, and I definitely get in the past, you got the Ace of Pentacles. And the Ace of Pentacles it's the seed. It's the first pentacle, right? It's the first that leads to the 10, right? And what it means, I think that with the page being excitement, and again, you see him camping, you see him doing new things, and I am getting a real Cub Scout kind of vibe. I'm getting a feeling that in the past, I really get the feeling like you were learning something new. And I do get a feeling like it's a little bit of a financial endeavor. That you were excited to learn, right? So maybe this was like a new job, or maybe this was like a promotion to a position that you got to do new things and it really felt like exciting, like you really wanted to do something new. And but in addition to it being new and exciting, it really gave you the seed of opportunity, right? Maybe it meant a raise, or I really get the feeling like you're learning a new skill set, right? Because again, you see this person, coins, the pentacles are stuff that you value, and the Ace of Pentacles is that first. Again, it's the cornerstone. It's and the page is the beginning, right? So the other thing is that maybe it is some kind of new endeavor that really does will help you become more financially stable. And you were excited. You were like, wow, you kind of felt like you finally made it, right? But it was something new for you. It was something that you could learn to do. But it is giving you that first seed of opportunity. It's definitely, I'm feeling a lot of opportunity here. Now, presently, you got a really great card. You got the Seven of Coins. And what that is the Seven of Coins is, I love the depiction of the Seven of Coins in this deck because, first off, you see a lot of moths flying around, and a moth to a flame, right? And you see two persons who look like they're gambling, right? Now, the one person is gambling and he's putting down the cards, but the one thing that you see is that in his back pocket, he has the Seven of Diamonds, which really is the Seven of Pentacles, right? There's kind of a double entendre there. Now, the other person is betting, right? He's upping the ante, right? But what I think is gorgeous about this card is that if you look over his shoulder, the Wheel of Fortune in this deck is depicted as Lady Luck. And I'm going to go ahead and find it real quick because I just think that you need to see it for reference. But the lady is wearing green, which is abundance, and it usually means growth. It does also mean the heart chakra, but a lot of times it just means, being lucky, being green, being prosperous. And I do love all the pages in this deck because they're all children. But when you look at it, the Wheel of Fortune, or just Fortune, is Lady Luck, right? And when you look at it, Lady Luck is also in the picture, and she's smiling. Lady Luck is smiling over the shoulder of the guy who looks like he's about to be cheated. But I do think what it means is the Seven of Coins is a lot of times he's hedging his bets, right? The Seven of Pentacles is looking at what you've grown so far. A lot of times it feels like waiting. A lot of times it does feel like something is not growing fast enough. But here, I do see that again, he looks like he's trying to be careful with his bets, right? Which is very good, seeing as that, we the viewer can see that the other person looks like they might be trying to pull a fast one, right? So I do think that I am getting a sense that, again, with the Page of Wands and the wands being instinct, it is very impulsive. It is very exciting. I do get the sense that in the past, you started something that was really exciting, and that one pentacle grew into 7. And again, you do feel like you're kind of gambling right now, and this is present energy, right? You kind of feel like you've earned a little bit, right? You've gotten ahead, and you don't want to lose what you've gained, but you're not quite to the 10 yet, right? So where you are is you're excited. You want to continue to keep going. The other thing about the 7s is it's almost like you're kind of egging it on. Like, like it's, you didn't go from 1 to 10 overnight. You kind of had to work for that 7 that you've got so far. But you almost want it to go faster. You're kind of like faster, quicker. And you're almost a little bit willing to bet it all. But again, Lady Luck is over your shoulder going like, okay, you need to be careful, be careful, because you don't want to lose it all, but you do want to continue going and earn more. Now, underneath it, you got and again, right underneath, you got the Page of Swords, which I think is a really cute card. Again, I love any deck. The Witch's Tarot also depicts the pages as children, and I think it's just the cutest thing. But I really do think that I think you probably are banking a little bit on your communication skills. I am getting kind of like a vibe, like, again, with this person being a gambler, and this being a Page of Wands, and this being a Page of Swords, I think that possibly you may have gotten some kind of promotion where you might learn about technology, or you jumped for the position, right? You were excited to take it, but maybe you do have to learn as you go, and maybe again, every one of us has probably taken a position that was probably a little bit over our head, but then you caught up, right? You learned it and you got into it. I think that's what you're kind of doing here. You're kind of gambling on your own talent, that you can learn this, that you can learn it fast. Again, we talked about having blind optimism, saying, well, I can just do this. I'm not even going to worry about how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it, right? Because I know I can. And it's the same thing a little bit with the Page of Swords. It's almost like, swinging that sword and going, aha, I got you, right? But the Swords is definitely more mental, and it's more technology driven. So I think you probably are learning systems, or you're gambling, you probably are a little bit new at what you're doing. but you are trying to be careful, but you do have a little bit at stake here. You probably are going into this a little bit novice. But I do think that you have again, with the Page of Wands, I think you have a faith that you can do it. You know that you can do it, right? And you might come across as a little bit inexperienced at it first, but you're gambling, you're betting on yourself is what I'm feeling. I really get the feeling, and look at the expression on his face. I love that. Look at that expression. I'm betting on myself, right? I'm gonna up the ante, and I'm gonna bet on me. And I do think that you can do it. Again, both of these pages are in the upright, and you did go from 1 coin to 7. But you do want to be careful. You don't want to get too reckless with it, because that's the other thing. Don't get too over your head. But you could gamble and win. You never know. You could gamble and win. Now, the future card, you got the Chariot, and I love this card in this deck. I think it's the first time we've seen it on this channel. But you see a girl riding a bike with two wheels, and what's really cute is that you see she has kind of scraped up knees, right? And you can kind of see it's a little bit of sunset, either that or it's first thing in the morning. I always kind of get a sunset kind of card feeling from this. And one other thing, let me just point out, is that you really do have kind of a sunset in the background of all three of these cards, right? You got a sunset with the Page, with the 7, and with the Chariot. So I do think, and again, with these two pages being around, I think you're forging ahead. You're just forging ahead. And again, this is also kind of a young person. She's not, not a teenager, not adult. I do think those scraped knees means the scraped knees kind of means that you might have fallen off your bike a little bit. You might have had a few tumbles in your learning experience, but you got right back up on the horse, right? The other thing is that I do see that she has a lot of books, right? She has books everywhere. She has books in the basket. She has books tied to the back. I think you are willing to learn. I think and the other thing that I'm kind of getting is that with the Chariot, maybe you have the opportunity to travel with this. The other thing about the Page of Wands is that they really are kind of a beautifully restless card. Like, you sitting at the same desk every day would not appeal to you, right? So maybe you did take a position where there was a little bit of a learning curve, but it gave you the opportunity to go different places, and that really was a benefit. It's a boon, right? So I do think that I also get I'm hearing going places. So I do think that there's opportunity for you ahead, and you're really trying to charge forward for it, toward it. But again, with the books and the two wheels and I do think that you have more to learn, but it is almost like you're getting up at dawn and going to where you need to go. Either that, or maybe you're coming home. I really kind of get the feeling like you're working late hours, but you're excited. The other thing that we talked about is Page of Wands is like feeling excited, like summer camp, like you're excited to get up in the morning to go where you're going. I think whatever it is you're doing does really make you happy in that way. Like, you're grateful to be doing what you're doing. It thrills you, and at least it does right now, or it will into the immediate future. And you don't mind getting up early. You don't mind traveling. You don't mind commuting. I know we're probably not commuting as much right now, but I do think that you enjoy that aspect of it, and that aspect of it makes you feel free. And I do also think that even though you're learning real fast, and you might have had a few stings from it, a few tumbles. I think you want to continue. I think you love this path. I'm hearing the word, I love this path, the phrase. So I think you're excited about where you're going, and you want to keep going. And that's definitely that really enthusiastic Page of Wands energy. All right, so that's great, guys. So that's how the Page of Wands is manifesting in your life. Let's go ahead and deck number 3, the Morgan Greer. So let's go ahead and see, and you got our beautiful new clear quartz. Let's see, how does the Page of Wands manifest in your life? Ooh, fell in my lap. in the future. Oh, wow. We have a common denominator card there. We had the Ace of Swords come out in the first deck. I'm going to go ahead and put this to the side a little bit. Please clarify. All right. Oh, wow. Side note, out with the star, the King of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles really want to come out, and that's such an awesome combination. And let's go ahead and we are going to do common denominator cards real quick. Sorry. Go ahead and do that where you can see it. Can you see it? Can't really see it. Sorry. Here we go. How about that? All right. So let's go ahead and do this. So, gosh, guys, so the Page of Rods. In the past, we got the High Priestess, which is that beautiful. It's the second card in the Major Arcana, and it's the High Priestess is that gorgeous. She's the keeper of the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. She knows the 3D and she knows the 5D, right? She's the spiritual knowing of the cycles of life. Like I really get a feeling that I'm getting more of a spiritual kind of sense from your page, where I think that I think it is almost your soul's purpose to kind of experience things, right? And again, there's sometimes hard times in life, but then there's good times in life too. And you almost kind of have to ride the waves. You take the good with the bad. And as cliche as it sounds, if you have a bad experience, just remember the good of it and, keep going. But I really get the sense that in the past, you really kind of, you knew, and again, with the clear quartz too, I'm getting a lot of clarity. I'm just getting a lot of, I think your sense of purpose, right? And the other thing is that I think by knowing your sense of purpose, like knowing your reason for being here, it allows you to be really free. Like it allows you to be in the Page of Rods energy. I think that I think you are so wise that you understand the benefits of being carefree, right? Which is a rare thing. Because I remember, we talked about how sometimes you become so adult that you forget how to have fun, right? You forget how to lighten up. And I think that again, the High Priestess kind of understands the purpose and things. She takes nothing personally. If she has a downtime in her life, she knows that there's a reason for it, right? Either that or she tries to see the good in that situation. She tries to say, okay, this low time in my life is really developing me, right? And it's kind of part of my soul purpose, right? Nobody likes to be in pain. Nobody likes to experience conflict or loss. But it makes you more appreciative of life, and it also makes you kind of sit back, right? The High Priestess is that mystique. She's that mystery. She knows that she has an acceptance and an understanding of life where she doesn't need to take action. And that's really the source. It's like that's the energy that you're coming from. Now, your present energy is that you have right underneath the Page of Wands, is Page of Rods, is you have the Five of Pentacles. And what you see there is you see someone who's really bad, bruised and battered and bleeding, right? And they're outside of the church. They're outside of the stained glass window. So right now, I really do think that you've been through kind of a rough time. You could be feeling financially strapped, or you might just be feeling left out in the cold. You might be feeling a little bit lonely, or just, like things are just really kind of austere, just cold and kind of, I'm getting in this card, I like this card because you see a lot of nurturing, right? You do see someone who's pretty nurturing. Um, but I also, what I'm kind of getting from this too is that I think that you might be going through a phase where you feel like everything is kind of cold and unforgiving, but you're not allowing yourself to lose faith. I think you're holding on to your optimism. Because you also see that this person, the person who's all bloodied and bandaged, they are younger, right? They look kind of like this page, right? But I think what's happening is that, again, times are not very certain right now, and it's been a rough haul for a lot of people. And I think that maybe you have been feeling a little left out in the cold. Maybe you've kind of been shown a little bit more of the austere side of life right now. But what you're doing is you're not allowing yourself to be pessimistic. You're holding on to your optimism. The other thing that I kind of get with this, and I was kind of thinking about this today, is that have you ever gone through tough times in your life where you feel either really alone, or you feel like everyone's just being really cold, or that everything is really callous, that there's not a whole lot of care, there's not a whole lot of compassion sometimes, or at least your perception will give you that. You have on the gray colored glasses. um, I saw a really cute T-shirt that said, be the reason that people believe in the good in others. Be the person who, and displays the good of other people. Be the reason that somebody, you know, keeps the faith. And I think that's what you're doing. I think that's what you're doing. The other thing that I like to do too is that sometimes when you hit a moment, and again, maybe it's because of maybe it's because of tough financial times. Maybe you're feeling a little left out in the cold by friends or by family. Maybe you just feel a little isolated right now, which we all do, right? But the maybe your normal support systems are just not there right now. um, One thing that I always like to do is I like to remember back to another time. Like, sometimes we can be fearful of losing our stability or losing our security. And again, that's kind of the Five of Pentacles energy. Like, okay, I'm gonna, I'm left out in the cold. I'm destitute. There's no one here to care for me. But what you have to remember is that there's always someone to care for you, and you can always care for yourself. The other thing that I like to remember is that if you look back in your history, inevitably there was another time that you were probably in a similar situation, if not kind of worse. And I don't mean to say it like that, like, oh, okay, well, you have to be grateful that it's not as bad as this time. But it's kind of true. It's kind of like saying, wow, you come a long way, baby, is kind of like that. And that's the encouragement that you can give yourself, right? Like, maybe, if if you remember back to a time when you know that you felt like you were away from home, or a time when you moved for the first time, or maybe you had some other experience in your life that really kind of changed your environment, changed things for you. And if you look back to that time and really kind of, there's always some little thing that can be appreciated, right? Maybe you had to move suddenly, and you're in this little one bedroom apartment, but the one bedroom apartment had this really beautiful view of the park. you know what you can do is, I really do think the Page of Rods is kind of that. It is that little comfort. It is that little spark of optimism of saying, why not be present and think about where you are and find one thing to be appreciative. Gratitude is always a beautiful thing to have. And I know it's not always easy to cultivate when times are hard, but it is that spark of optimism that keeps us alive, right? It's saying, wow, this isn't the place that I want to be forever, but gosh, it has a pretty view. Let me go ahead and enjoy the view while I'm here, because I'm not going to be here forever, right? Um, and so that, I think that's where you are kind of right now. Now, in the future, you have a really beautiful kind of future. And remember, the star wanted to come out next to what, the King of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles. Um, that's really like, gosh, guys, that really speaks to me of like, it speaks to me of home and family. I mean, you can be a man or a woman watching this reading, but I really get the feeling like you have a really beautiful future ahead of you. You just might be in a little bit of a bottleneck right now, but you might be in a place that makes you feel a little bit lost. Now, in the future, you got the Ace of Swords, which is the second time. The common denominator card is the Ace of Swords this today. But you got the Ace of Swords and the Four of Cups. And the Four of Cups is a notorious, the Four of Cups is about apathy, right? You see this person who's looking straight at a cup that's being offered by a hand out of a cloud. But they have three other cups here that are full, right? They're full, and he can't even look at the new cup that's being offered. Like, he's not even, it doesn't even look exciting to him. It's just kind of like meh, right? It's kind of like a meh kind of feeling. I think what's happening is, again, swords are breakthrough. Swords are seeing the truth. But the Ace of Swords is, it's again, with the hand coming out of the clouds. That's the second hand coming out of the cloud too. You have a hand coming out of the cloud with a cup. You have a hand coming out with a sword. I do think it's the universe saying that this experience is just a catalyst for a new beginning, right? I really get the feeling that whatever you're going through right now, you're keeping your optimism, and things are about to be revealed to you in a big way. I'm not saying that I condone any hard times. I don't like hard times. I don't think that they're not easy, and they're not they're hard on people. It causes a lot of trauma with that. But what it's saying is that you're going to be coming out of that, and you're going to be coming to a whole new understanding. It's almost like, it's like a mental breakthrough. I do also think that this experience is going to give you a lot of brilliant new ideas. Now, you are going to be a little bit apprehensive. You're going to be hesitant to do anything, because your emotions are going to be a little bit guarded. Because again, once you've been battered and bruised, right? You're not going to be real quick to do anything. And also, the Page of Wands, like we said, is a little bit reckless. It's possible that you were a little bit impulsive, and you might have had a little bit of a downfall from that. But moving forward, I definitely see that you kind of, I'm getting kind of more of a keep the faith kind of energy, because I do think that moving forward, you are going to have a great mental breakthrough. And it is going to make you a little bit guarded for a while. You are going to be a little bit apathetic. But again, the star wanted to come out with the King of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles. And the Ten of Pentacles is such a strong card. It's like really having stability, never being left out in the cold again. And the other thing is the King of Cups. The King of Cups is holding that cup. He holds a cup of love. He's the most emotionally generous of all the kings. He's really, really there for you. And so I definitely think that if this is due to some kind of breakup or some kind of, divorce, you have a really beautiful future ahead of you. So it is telling you to, don't let your spark, fade out. I do kind of think of that song, This Little Light of Mine, don't let that spark fade. Try to keep the faith, because you are going to have a breakthrough. There's going to be a mental, opening of your mind after this. You're going to feel a little bit numb after all this, but you're going to be okay. But definitely keep the faith, because the star is the most hopeful card in the deck. And so there's a lot of wishes that are going to be fulfilled. It may not feel like it right now, but again, have those little appreciations of life. Try to see it through the eyes of a child. Maybe there's something kind of exciting about where you are now. And the other thing is that even though it's uncomfortable, you may never be in this place again. You may leave this situation and never have to be in that situation again for the rest of your life. So why not look around and kind of see, okay, what's nice about this? Where I am right now, what's nice about this? And it helps give you the optimism to get forward. And until things start moving forward, it gives you that spark of hope and excitement, that things will get better. But all right, guys, so wow, that was a really powerful read. Let me go ahead and put our other Ace of Swords in the common denominator. But I definitely thank you for joining me today. The How to Tarots do run a little bit longer, but I am going to be doing the weekly energy card reading on Saturday. And then next Tuesday we're going to How to Tarot again, and this time we're going to be talking about a real exciting character. We're going to be talking about the Knight of Wands. I hope you can stop back by then, and I'll catch you later. Bye.